everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the Q&A show, a show where we distill years of our experience and expertise in e-learning to offer you best practices, tips, and tricks that actually work. I'm Pranjalee Lahri. I'm the AVP Marketing at Upside LMS, and with me today is Amar Pawar. He's the AVP Technology at Upside LMS, and he oversees all of the product, the operations related to customer success and support.
Hello everyone. Hi.
Alrighty, so we are going to dig deep into the questions that you sent to us, and the first question is what I'm going to pull up on the screen. This is the first question for all of us. It says, how can AI transform L&D? Amar, would you like?
Yeah, sure, Pranjali. We see AI most commonly used today in offering recommendations to end users, helping them build up paths. That is the primary use case that we see across in many of the L&D platforms. But I do believe a lot more can be done, especially in the area of offering smart and actionable analytics to L&D teams, and hopefully try to add in terms of automating their L&D processes. I'm sure L&D teams would be looking at what more can be done because they are always short of hands, and the more support that they get from an L&D platform, the more it's going to be acceptable and welcomed by their teams.
Absolutely, and I'll quickly try to add on to what Amar has said. I think the way L&D can benefit from AI, but there's a quick story that I would like to share with you. And my kid, who's now turning 7 years old, when he was turning about five, the fabulous fives, he had a lot of questions for us. So anyone who's a parent will know this the best, that children will throw a barrage of questions at you, and the best way we could address those questions is, of course, to keep up with the answers that we could give him. But then we thought of doing something that every parent these days would do. We got him an AI question answering machine, and essentially what I'm talking about is Alexa. But long story short, what I understood after getting Alexa is that even Alexa as an AI tool does not have answers to all the questions that kid can potentially throw at us. Right. So, and I'll try to link this to the question that you asked, which is how can AI transform L&D? Whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it is machine learning, it could be big data, any of these technologies that we are all using to make our lives better, our works faster, reduce the cost, or any advantage that you can potentially think of, all of these advantages really come to play only when you have a natural intelligence, someone like you sitting behind it who really uses it as an enabler or a facilitator so that you can achieve the objectives that you have. So my suggestion is, while all of the advantages that Amar has listed, how it can potentially transform your L&D, don't really look at it only as a silver bullet that using them will get you to where you want to go. Use it very intelligently, use it in a very calculated way so that you're able to achieve your objectives. With that, I'll go to question number 2. The second question you've asked is, how can we drive organization culture in the digital environment? Okay. Organization culture by itself is a very broad term, okay, and we will probably take entire space of the Q&A show today itself if we have to address that one point. And again, oh my God, I think I can give you another analogy, and this is going to be a fun analogy, which is, to me, organization culture, when someone speaks of that, it is very similar to the environment or the vibes that you get when you meet your in-laws. Please don't slot me into a box yet. Hear me out. Stay with me. Right? So the first time when you meet your in-laws, all you're doing really is assessing your in-laws from the lens that your induction partner, which is your spouse, has provided to you. So everything about the behavior, your perceptions are really carved out based on what your induction partner has told you. As time progresses, as the relationship develops, hopefully you're married now, you develop your own lens to look at your in-laws, right? And so you lose your borrowed lens of your induction partner and you essentially form your own opinions, your perceptions about it. Now, this really to me is what organization culture is all about. It is something that when a new joinee enters an organization, uses the induction and uses the employees who are articulating those or demonstrating behaviors as their benchmark or their playbook to really conduct themselves in the organization. But as time progresses, this is what they also capture as a part of their own behaviors and their own value systems. Now, coming to the question that you are asked, how can you potentially aid organization culture or drive organization culture using L&D? I'll say that there are two ways to look at it. The first is if you already have a predefined organization culture, in that case, your L&D can be an extended support in terms of organizing or putting together a learning path that aligns to your objectives, values, so that you can articulate them better. You can help your employees understand it in a way that is easy for them to appreciate and inculcate in their day-to-day lives. The second part of the story is when you're looking at shifting your organization culture, and a potential opportunity like that could be what COVID gave us, when it really changed all of the culture in just a matter of days. In a situation like that, L&D can step in and help you in being your change management partner. Again, they can help you with curating the right sets of content, the right set of learning paths, so that the change management happens in a very gradual way and aligned in your organization's perspective too. Amar, do you have some thoughts to share?
Pranjali, I think you covered it beautifully. See, my thoughts are basically organization culture. When we talk about it, it is basically built up of some common shared values. Values like empathy, ethics, focus, your people and team orientation, trust, competitiveness, and there are many things, right? So these all end up building your organization culture. Now these primarily are defined right at the top level, but in most cases this is not driven at that level. This is primarily driven by your people who have spent some time with you, by your senior team members whom your teams look up to, right? So these are the people who are primarily driving your organization culture, and this is true irrespective of the environment, be it digital, be it remote working, working from office. It really doesn't matter. It's only what do you say, the platform, how you are basically managing this. Now, my suggestion especially during, is not that difficult to drive the organization culture if it is, really well embedded. I would say, the very important team or the person in your team is going to be your HR team. You talked about the L&D and the HR teams. I think they are the ones, because they are really the role models over here. They are the ones who would be reinforcing those values, the ethics, and most importantly, they would be the one who would be managing the communication related to how the organization culture is driven within the organization. Now, something related to that is about the induction process. The new joinees who are absolutely unaware of what this organization culture is built up of, right? So it is very important that they understand that and understand and are being introduced to everyone who they are going to work with, how they are going to be supported in their role, everybody who is going to touch upon and have some level of impact in them performing their role, is something going to be important. And a very important aspect which many HR induction processes take care of is and you can see a lot of LinkedIn posts related to that every day today, right? That people are receiving lots of gadgets, equipments, and some messages from their CEOs and team members. I think these are all part of trying to achieve the same thing, driving the culture that the entire team is built up of. So, and the reason for that is to try to ensure that the new joinee is having a welcoming feeling, and they understand that they are very, they are part of this positive and a supportive organization, that has been built. Finally, what I would also like to talk about is, how this could be done at an individual level. So, people like us, or people, anybody who is having a team working under them. One thing definitely which I have seen and I've read about is about trying to keep trying to with your team members. This is very important, not only to just catch up on what is happening in the professional lives. It also try to help you understand the team better and trying them to and an opportunity for them to understand you well, because see, it's been about 7 8 months now, or sorry, 6 months now, that we are all working from home, and if you are not giving them any opportunity to discuss what's happening and you are not aware of it, things, there is too much of gap that comes about. So having this one meeting is going to also give you an opportunity for them to share things. It can be personal, professional, really doesn't matter. You can celebrate their achievements, their happiness. You can try discussing any challenges they are facing. I believe these 3 or 4 things, they are not difficult, but they are going to help you successfully drive the organization culture that we are trying to been really working towards.
Very, very eloquently described, Amar. With that, I'll switch to question number three. The question third is key points while preparing our L&D budget, especially during these pandemic times. I think very interesting. And as a matter of fact, in our last session, we had a similar question to how do people even prioritize L&D in times where the budget and the cash situation is a bit weak. Amar, would you again like to take this up?
Yeah, sure. See, I would say what is important is a solid understanding of your needs, and very importantly, a clear set of goals for the year. When you're working on your L&D budget, that is going to be a key of how you're doing it. But other than that, there are going to be areas like what you can focus on is the size of your workforce, their skill sets, their backgrounds, what their training needs are, and what are the areas that you want to train them on. Whether they are compliance training, product services, training, upskilling, onboarding, induction. You need to have a very clear idea and focus in terms of what you are want to achieve in the current year, right? Then it is going to be a decision between whether you really want to build a custom content, because that is expensive and everybody is aware how expensive it can go about and how much impact it has directly has on the L&D budget, or whether we can do away with that, and we can consider something like off the shelf content, because they not only provide you more flexibility, but they also are because of the variety it offered, it is also a very good way of allocating your budget and distributing your budget, right? Another aspect, which many times we really do not focus on, is having a deeper analysis of your last year's achievements and failures. This is very important because it offers you an insight in terms of any corrections that is needed in your budget allocation, and that is also going to be important in terms of how we are planning your next year's activities, targets, and your allocation.
Absolutely. I'm just going to quickly go to a screen and okay, sorry, this is better. All right. So Amar has covered almost everything that needs to be spoken about when you speak of an L&D budget. And listen, guys, budgeting itself is a very tricky affair, right? Because on one side of the equation, you have some cost, which is the investment that you make in it. On the other side of the equation, you again have a value that you need to demonstrate using the cost on the left. And in times like the pandemic or anything that really puts your budget in a frozen state, it is very difficult to manage this equation in a very balanced format, because your cost sometimes is almost non-existent while you need to keep demonstrating the ROI in most cases. So in this situation, when you have a budget constraint, my suggestion to you would be 3 areas, if I can say so. The first one I can suggest is that you might want to keep different budgets for your tech stack and a different budget, for example, for your learning content. As Amar said, there is a cost associated with developing custom learning content is heavy in itself. So segregating these kind of help you assign correct budgets to each of the components. You can also amp up one or pare down one as needed, depending upon the objectives that you have, depending upon the cash that you have to use at that point in time. The second thing is you may want to relook at your pricing models. Now, most of the vendor partners that you work with will be able to offer you very flexible pricing models. They can even offer you active user pricing. And using an active user pricing, you have some room and flexibility to really play around with your pricing so that it's not a burden on you, and your vendor partner can also accommodate it very easily in their pricing structure. Now, I do have to mention when we talk about active user pricing that it is advisable to use a pricing like that only when you have a variable user base. If you have a fixed user base over a stipulated time period, then I think you just have to work on a better flexing model with your partner. The third area is perhaps something that really gets you to relook at your entire learning mix, all of the technologies, all of the tools that you have in your mix, because oftentimes it happens so that some of the legacy tools and some of the legacy systems we have purchased, they just stay into our buckets and we don't really relook at them if they're adding value to the way that we expect of them. There is a very interesting Japanese philosophy. It's rather an art of decluttering, and it's made popular by an author called Mary Kondo. And essentially, she talks of paring down all the non-essentials. So what it leaves you with are only the value-adding components. So in times like these, when you already have some constraints on your budget, it makes sense to pare down all of the non-essentials, or at least the things which are not exactly adding value to you, are clunky systems perhaps, or are taking more investment in terms of resources, time, or efforts from your end. So those are my 2 cents on how you can use the L&D budgets or plan them better in times like these. I'll quickly go to question 4. I'm mindful of the fact that we have only a couple of minutes at hand. The last question is how to select the right digital learning content. Wow. Okay. Digital learning content, and it's so ironical that we have to speak of digital learning content in the information economy that we are in today, because quite honestly information is everywhere, and perhaps that's also the reason why you need to be very mindful of how to select the content, because sometimes it's just overwhelming. It's called the paradox of choice, which means you have too many choices to really pick and choose from. So when it comes to selecting the right digital content, I will give you 3 things perhaps that you should not prioritize, or rather deprioritize, when you're looking at digital learning content, and that's the way I'll try to address this. The first one I'll say is cost. And I speak of this from a personal perspective when I went to upskill myself in particular areas, and also when we talk to our prospects, when we have our plethora offering to be shared with them. I often see that the decisions are made purely from a single lens of pricing. Now, it can sometimes be a double-edged sword, because on one end of the spectrum of pricing, when there is a low cost or there is a very low value attached to it, it definitely puts the quality at stake. And while you're trying to save on your prices, you may not be able to achieve your objectives. On the other end of the spectrum, when you're looking at very high value product, it does not always mean high quality. And sometimes if it even means high quality, it may not align to the objectives that you had. So definitely have cost on your evaluation parameters, but don't make it your be all and end all. So that's the first one. Second is certifications. And I know I'm going to ruffle a few feathers when I speak of certifications, because certifications are so important, one, when it comes to training and learning. But in my experience, I've seen that certifications, they definitely add the validation to the training and learning that you have undertaken. It definitely is a good boost to your ego, I also have to accept. It's a good decoration for your CV, and it definitely helps you in gamification if you're using a learning management system with gamification in it. But at the end of the day, what you really need to see is how are these certifications really applying or transferring their understanding to the real world. So instead of just focusing on certifications, if they are with a digital learning program or not, my suggestion is look at opportunities that you make available to your learners that allow them to use the knowledge that they're gaining through the learnings into actual applications. The third one is author-led content, or what I see nowadays is we typically have all of these renowned industry experts that lend their name or conduct courses. Now, it's amazing to have an author who's spent a good chunk of their life into specializing into something. But again, and I also have to say, let's say if Michelle Obama tomorrow has a course on women empowerment, perhaps I'll drop everything and just run and do the course. So I'm not really undermining the value of having author-driven content, but oftentimes just evaluating your digital learning content strategy, just checking if there is author-driven content, if that you can be used by your learners, I think just makes it very myopic for the objectives that you have at hand. So those are my 3 things that I think you should reprioritize. Keep them on your list, but not at the very top. Amar, do you want to add some to these that I've just said?
I think you covered it well, Pranjali. See, the key items of budget, quality, interactivity, they are always going to be there, irrespective, of the vendor, the area that you are trying to get the digital content for. They are always going to be there. My suggestion is to not only be limited to that, but also try to focus on whether the content that you're looking forward to is, whether it is solving the purpose, why it has been taken, why it has been onboarded, try to see it and map it to the user group who are going to actually consume it, whether the content is speaking the language that is being understood by the user group, right? So that is one another area which may or may not be very very much focused on. Try to go for variety as much as possible. Don't try to get yourself attached to a single vendor or a single author or a publisher. Try to see if the content is capable of offering reinforcement of the training, the learnings that you're trying to deliver, and if there is a way you can measure that. If it is able to offer most of it, if not all, I think it would be a good option. See, I've seen vendors, there are many vendors who offer off the shelf content, and they do content in almost every segment and industry that is there. But if you really look deeper into it, they have capability of maybe one or two or a couple of more areas in terms of the specialty or the quality, real quality of the content. Rest of the content which are available are mainly to build up some numbers and balloon the cost per user for the customer, right? And that's why they are offering you that you subscribe to the entire bucket that is there. And the idea is that we have a lot of LXPs and platform like ours, where we are offering you an option from multiple different vendors, different authors, different publishers. These the reason for looking at something, an option similar to this, is the benefit of that is going to be that you basically have a lot of variety. And then these LXPs, they are also capable of adding more and more content as the time progresses. Now, if there is more option available, if they are under the right budget and you get new variety of content available, the decision actually makes it easier. The only thing is you need to have an understanding of what these and who these vendors are, and what kind of offering they have to offer to you, and are they able to satisfy you in terms of the 4 5 points that I talked about, right? The purpose, the user group, variety. So I believe if you keep these things in mind, I think you should be able to find the right digital content for your user group.
With that, we are at the very end. But before that, let me quickly just fix the screen. This is what technology does to us, guys. So just give me a minute. You can see everything skewed on the screen as of now. Okay, here we go. We're almost done. Okay, great. It just lost mine. Sorry, Amar. Hang on. I think I'll just jump to a better screen. Okay. All right. Sorry for that, guys. This is how technology tests me, at least at the very last moment, and it what keeps me on my toes. In tradition of what we do every time, we are at the end of the show, and I have one question to ask Amar. Amar, we know that you're an Apple fanboy. If you have to convince an Android user to switch to Apple, these are your 2 minutes. You have to start now.
Try and check out Apple Watch. I think there is no greater device at this point. The features and everything that is offered by that, it is absolute steal, and it is also one of the best hook points that Apple is offering to get into their ecosystem.
Okay, I don't know if I'm still a convert, but thank you, Amar. I'll definitely go and check it out. And thank you, everyone, for. You definitely did try. Alrighty, guys. With that, join us on 6th of November, same time, same place, for more insights with a new guest. Until then, let's keep the conversation going on Upside LMS, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Send in your questions by adding hashtag AUALMS, that is Ask Us Anything LMS, to your tweet or your LinkedIn post. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend ahead.